Zach Krager's weapons just came and went, and honestly, it's frustrating. The trailers gave me genuine chills, and for once, it was a trailer that didn't spoil the entire plot. The idea of a bunch of possessed kids running out of their house in the middle of the night is frightening, but what's scarier is how poorly it was executed. This is a phenomenally high concept for a horror story, but it's trapped inside a structural mess. It wants to be a clever, multi-POV masterpiece, but instead of driving us forward, Krager often drives us in circles. Here's a sequence that perfectly sums it up. James the junkie breaks into the house, he walks past the kitchen on his left and looks at it, to then look again to his left at the same kitchen from a different angle. Then later, as Paul falls under Gladys's spell and drags James back into the house, we abruptly cut away to a different perspective just as he's about to be dragged in. So why exactly are we shown the same thing from two different angles when it adds nothing, and then jarringly cutting away after building tension? The biggest sin of juggling all these POVs is that the movie never lets a scene breathe. It manufactures fake tension by yanking the handbrake right at the climax. This is the main reason that the film fell apart and didn't have much longevity. One cliche example involves Justine in a chilling scene where she creeps around the house. She peeks through a crack in the newspaper and we see Alex's parents sitting on the couch frozen. It's a good scare with a single musical beat instead of a jump scare. But after seeing that, Justine realizes she's in a horror film and decides to go on a stakeout mission with her doors unlocked so that the plot is allowed to crawl forward. When it comes to plot armor, Justine is weighed down by so much, I'm surprised she can even walk. When Marcus falls under the spell and attacks Justine, he resorts only to choking her out. He starts by choking his partner out for a few seconds and then ruthlessly bashes his face in using his forehead in a stellar practical effect. And Justine just gets choked, and I get it, she's the final girl, but she could have survived at least one headbutt. This film really should not have been set in modern day with a ring camera as a central plot device. Because although Archer was able to use the trajectory of the ring camera to figure out where the house was, in the modern times when the news broke that 17 elementary school kids were missing, everyone in the vicinity would submit their ring camera footage to the police, who would then conduct a widespread search of the area, and Gladys would not get away with this for more than a few days. For a film that, on the surface, seems to take itself quite seriously, there's a lot of tonal interruptions that don't make much sense to me. For example, the dream sequence that Marcus has with the 217 gun is super jarring and took the dread of the dream sequence away. And then there's some comedic beats that I feel really don't fit. And then there's that scene in the finale when a possessed James attacks Archer and keeps getting knocked out and wakes back up. Yeah, it's a funny gag, but we're just driving in circles. It ultimately takes away from the atmospheric dread and level of seriousness this film spent so long trying to build. The film does build a nice foreshadowed breadcrumb trail of what Gladys is and her intentions, with thematic imagery like having parasites written on Justine's classroom chalkboard, and Marcus and his partner watching a documentary on how parasites control the mind right before it happens. It's a great use of thematic imagery and foreshadowing that leads us to her arrival, which is exactly why leaving her perspective out is a fatal flaw in the film. We spend a lot of time with POVs of characters we don't have much reason to care about aside from maybe Justine and Alex, and there's all this foreshadowing of a parasite on its way. I can understand that it was a deliberate choice to leave her mysterious, but give us something. I think it would have been beneficial to have some foreboding music play over shots of a feeble Gladys on the phone, then show us her packing up her plant and leaving behind her previous victims to arrive in the night at Alex's house, and then we see Alex go to sleep and Gladys getting to work on the parents. Instead, the film tells us she's going to arrive, shows us her arriving, and then jump cuts past her controlling the parents' mind. I usually love when a movie has me confused and leaves me up to figuring it out on my own, but not this confused. In my Backrooms review, I complained that the film tells us too much without showing us and jump cuts past all the juicy bits. Weapons has a pretty similar problem. It shows us the same scenes from different overlapping angles and hints at pieces of the narrative without actually giving us the full thing.
Aside from the structure, a lot of this film really worked for me. The cinematography and camera movement is top-notch and super engaging, and the framing of a lot of shots is subtly genius, and there's some undeniably skin-crawling moments in this film. I love the use of sound cues over jump scares and the reliance on practical effects over CGI. And I can't not mention that Amy Madigan even won a well-deserved Oscar for her unsettling portrayal as Aunt Gladys. And I'm looking very far forward to the prequel where we'll learn about her origins.
But I want to know what you think. Has this film crossed your mind at any point over the last year, or have you altogether forgotten about it? And how would you have done it differently? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and while you're down there, hit like and subscribe if you enjoy what I have to say and want to see more. Nice seeing you. And Marcus and his partner watching a documentary on pockets. And Marcus and his partner watching a documentary on pockets. And Marcus and his partner watching a documentary on pockets. Okay, pockets.